Welcome back to Askewed Reviews, and this week I'm doing movies in honor of Memorial Day, and today I'm doing the 1988 film, The Dirty Dozen, The Fatal Mission. Here is your trivia question for today. What is the train car that the Dirty Dozen has to get on to complete their mission? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So in this fourth installment of the Dirty Dozen series, we are back in World War II, and once again, General Worden gets another mission that needs to be completed by people who may be expendable. And once again, he reaches out to Major Wright to be able to put together a new team. And just like each and every time before, he heads back to the military prison, collects his prisoners that will now form the new Dirty Dozen. Now, one big change that seems to happen in the group this time is one of them ends up being a spy for the Germans. So when the group ends up losing one of their own, Lieutenant Campbell steps in to join the group and aid her skills. So this time around, the mission is to not only get aboard a train, but to manage to take out all of the German officers that stand between them and a specific train car, because within that car are high-ranking officials that are on their way to start the Fourth Reich. So will this new Dirty Dozen be able to accomplish their mission, figure out who the spy is, and manage to have all of them come back safely? This movie was directed by Lee H. Katzin. So the original plan was to hopefully bring Lee Marvin back one more time so he and Telly Savalas could be in it together. Unfortunately, Marvin died shortly before the film began, so his character was written out. Now, Telly Savalas did come back to reprise his role as Major Wright, but he was actually very ill during production, dealing with bladder cancer. So in the first two films, the MP sidekick was played by Richard Yeckel. Now, in the third film, they brought in Vince Edwards, and then in this final film, that character type was played by Jeff Conaway, who you might recognize from Grease and the Taxi TV series. Another new face to the film was Eric Estrada, who you probably know from the television series Chips. Another new face to the series was Ernie Hudson, who you probably should know from Ghostbusters. And one last actor that was added into this film that might be harder to recognize is John Matuszek, who played Sloth in the Goonies film. Heather Thomas's portrayal of Lieutenant Campbell marks the first time that a member of the Dirty Dozen in any of the films is a woman. This is the only Dirty Dozen film to not take place in German-occupied France. It instead primarily takes place in Yugoslavia, and it was entirely filmed in Croatia. In this film, Ernest Borgnine now becomes the actor who has appeared in the most Dirty Dozen films, as he has been in all four of them and even played the same character. Telly Savalas is then the next, as he has appeared in three films. He was in the first one as Archer Maggot, and then he played Major Wright in the third and fourth films. Technically, Wolf Collar is also tied with Telly Savalas in a way. He appears in the second and third film, but he also appears in the television series, and in all three appearances, he is a different German officer. And finally, you have Lee Marvin and Richard Yeckel, who are tied with having two appearances in the first and second film. So when it comes to the film, The Dirty Dozen, The Fatal Mission, this one, just like the previous movie, is better than its predecessor. The story and characters are definitely better than the third film and way better than the second. So I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5. Now it's time for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. What is the train car that the Dirty Dozen has to get on to complete their mission? So the train car that is housing the high-ranking German officials is car number 2024. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.